All right, Larry Krueger here from the Pig and a Pickle Krug Show with a little 49er video. A rookie to keep your eye on this summer in training camp on the offensive side of the ball is Drake Nugent, the undrafted center out of the University of Michigan. We'll talk all about Nugent coming up next. But first, we're brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out. They're in Emeryville and Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. Go get some brisket chili. Go say hi to Damon and Mary. Tell them that Larry Krueger sent you. And this video is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Check the link in the description. Use the promo code Krug, K-R-U-E-G, and they'll match you up to your first $100. All right, let's talk a little bit about a guy that nobody's talking at all about, and that is Drake Nugent, the rookie center for the 49ers, undrafted free agent out of the University of Michigan. And Nugent, I've been watching Nugent for a number of years, because he started at Stanford and played there and then transferred to Michigan and finished there and won the national championship. But I really think just from watching Nugent a little bit in the OTAs that this is a guy who's going to make a name for himself this summer. I mean, when he puts his hands on defensive linemen, he jars you. He really does. It's a jarring, decleating kind of a contact. I mean, this guy really is interesting to watch, and there's a lot of traits that make me think that the Niners might have gotten a steal in Drake Nugent. So let's talk a little bit about Nugent. First team All Big Ten this year. He won the national championship playing center for the Michigan Wolverines on an offense that averaged 35.9 points per game. And he wasn't drafted. He's 23. He's 6'1", about 300 pounds, maybe a shade under. 298, 305, somewhere in that range. 6'1", though. Grew up in Colorado, Highlands Ranch High School in Colorado. He was a Broncos fan as a kid. And, you know, he was the nation's sixth best center coming out of high school. And he went to Stanford. And he played at Stanford 2019, 2020, 2021, and then 2022. Started 24 straight games at one point, and then transferred to Michigan in 2023 and started all 15 games on their national championship team. He was part of the number one transfer class in all of America. I mean, there was a Ladarius Henderson and others, Miles Hinton. There were a bunch of guys who transferred to Michigan this year. Anyway, he grew up in Lone Tree, Colorado. He was a two-time Pac-12 academic honor roll player, so smart player, very smart player. He was a finalist for the Remington Trophy. He was a preseason finalist for the Outland Trophy, and then ran for 5.33 at the combine. Did 25 reps at 225. 4-year starter, two-time team captain, and he was a track athlete in high school. He was a 3-time state champ in the shot put. He was the state runner-up in the discus his senior year in high school. And, you know, he comes from a football family. His dad, Terry, played quarterback at Colorado State, and then later in the NFL with the Colts and the Browns. He was a 6th-round pick by the Browns in the 84 draft. His uncle, Brian, played college football at Washington State. So he's got the football background in the family, and there's a lot to like about Nugent, who was really coached well by Sharon Moore, who's the offensive coordinator and O-line coach at Michigan that final year for the Wolverines. And you know, you're talking about a guy who's very stout, very powerful, very broad. Now, he's a little shorter than you'd like, right? 6'1", about 300 pounds. You know, and then there are some centers that are, you know, 6'4", 6'5". To me, the perfect height is probably about 6'3". This guy's about 6'1" and change, but he's really, really broad. He's really, really stout, very powerful in the upper body, and a tremendous technician. He plays with this spark plug type energy. You know, you can really see the strength that he has in his hands and his upper body. He doesn't have the quickest feet, but at times he'll show quickness. But he's very experienced player. Started 39 games at Stanford and Michigan, 42 games overall that he played in college, 39 starts. He's a little bit shorter than what you want. He's a little shorter than the ideal height. 33-inch arms, But man, we're talking about a guy who's tough and nasty and experienced and smart. He made all the O-line calls at Michigan. He's got a high football IQ. He actually, he had a 7.33 3-cone drill. So at times, testing wise, he tested out as a very quick player, 93rd percentile in the 3-cone drill. So that shows your short area quickness and your stop and start. He definitely fits best in a zone blocking system, and that's what the 49ers run under Kyle Shanahan. I mean, they'll do a little bit of everything, but it's predominantly a zone blocking scheme, and this is the scheme that this guy really excels in. He was got a lot of experience this last year run blocking for the Wolverines, blocking for Blake Corum and Edwards and all those great backs. Michigan had a 61-39 run pass split percentage, so it was a heavy run scheme, and he made all the line calls. He was their leader. He was their brains. He was the guy making all the calls. And he's also kind of that spark plug, tough guy. He didn't just go to Michigan and they were decent. They won the national championship. They didn't just have a good O-line. They had a great O-line. They didn't have a good running game. They had a great running game. So, and this guy was a big part of it. And I just think that, the NFL is so stringent and they're so tied to their their profiles of what they're looking for. I mean, they're looking for 6'3", 310. That's what they're looking for. This guy comes along, he's 6'1.5", 298. So he's a little shorter and a little lighter, and you're like, okay, mark him down. And so in the NFL, instead of this guy going in like the 4th, 5th round, he just doesn't get drafted at all. I mean, doesn't get drafted at all. This guy played in the big house in front of 100,000 people. He was damn good at Stanford. He transferred to Michigan, learned a totally different system, and in 1 year, he was damn good there. Remington Trophy finalist. That's an award given to the best center in the country. Pretty strong, 25 reps at 225. But, I mean, when you see 2-time team captain, academic All-American, 4-year starter, well-schooled by 2 really good offensive line coaches, I'm not as concerned about what this guy doesn't have. Is he a little too short? Yeah. Is he a little too light? Yeah, I guess. But what he really is, he's super nasty. Drake Nugent is nasty. He's really good in the zone blocking scheme, and he's excellent in the screen game, at blocking in the screen game. And these are nuances. These are things that it sometimes takes young linemen years to learn how to be proficient in the screen game. This guy's really good in the screen game right now. He's athletic enough. He's nasty. He's smart. He's played a lot of football. He's not going to be overwhelmed. If you put him up there against Chris Jones, the size and the strength and the quickness might be too much, but Chris Jones is going to be too much from almost everybody. And that's just reality. So I'll say this. I love this kid at Stanford. Then he transferred to Michigan. He had an incredible senior year at Michigan. And then he gets passed over in the draft, and the Niners signed him as an undrafted free agent. And, I liked it. But, man, the more I watched him, at minicamp, this guy is noticeable. He's a little bit more powerful, a little bit more stout, a little nastier, a little bit more of a finisher. You see this guy kind of raising defensive tackles up off their cleats, and he play. It's a leverage game on the line of scrimmage. So, being 6'1" instead of 6'4", there is some advantages at center in that you're built lower to the ground, and low man wins. So I like this player. I liked him at Stanford. I liked him at Michigan, but just watching him in the minicamp and seeing his aggressiveness, and then watching Jake Brendel struggle at times last year. Brendel's about 285. Brendel is bigger, taller. He's probably closer to 6'3", 6'4", but he's 285. And you saw in the Cincinnati game, DJ Reader just worked him, just overpowered him with size and strength. The nice thing about Nugent is he's smart. He's tough. He will fight you. He gets leverage. He gets a little pop in the run game. There's a lot to like here. The fact that football is the family business, that's great. The fact that this is a really high football IQ player, that's great. Intellect is really huge along the offensive line. Two-time Pac-10, Pac-12 academic honor roll. That's love hearing that. But to me, what really stands out is the tenacity and the fire and the strength that he showed in some of these practices against some of these NFL defensive linemen that he was going up against. He's noticeable, and he's broad. So, yeah, is he short? Yeah, but he's also broad. So, I mean, this is not going to be an easy guy to get around. Then you mix in the academics and the intelligence and the nastiness and being good in the screen game and the experience factor and how well he's been coached and the systems he's been in. I think Nugent is somebody to watch for. Brendel's going to have the upper hand. There's Ben Barch. There's other guys. I mean, the 49ers have a bunch of Nick Zakelj is going to be desperate to make the team. I'm sure if they say, hey, Nick, will you play center? He'll say, hell yeah, I'll play center. So, I mean, the 49ers have options when it comes to the center position. They really do. I mean, Brendel's the starter, but you have Ben Barch. Pooney can play all 5 spots, including center. John Feliciano can play center. Zakelj can play center. Then you have Drake Nugent. He can play center. Jarrett Kingston, Bryson Mays, those guys can play center. I mean, they are well fortified with options in the interior. And I'm telling you, Brendel's going to get the first crack, and Barch is probably second up. But do not sleep on Drake Nugent. You're going to see it in camp. You're going to see it in the preseason. This guy moves people. There's a nastiness to him. And you just see defensive linemen shocked by the power of Drake Nugent. I mean, he shocks them with his two-hand shiver. And the strength really plays. So watch for Drake Nugent this summer in 49er camp. And you heard it here first. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krug Show. Thanks to Underdog Fantasy for sponsoring this video. And thanks to all of you guys for supporting the Krug Show on YouTube.